All lanes remain closed due to a serious crash. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has reduced services on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News. Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here now.
Thank you, GB News!
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly. We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning to you. It is 9:30 on Monday the 29th of June. We are live across the United Kingdom. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Great to have you back, Andrew. Well, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood was talking tough in November.
I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times.
Well, now there's a new plan for public judges. Members of the public will be trained to decide asylum appeals instead of immigration judges, supposedly to speed up the process.
What do we think to that? And Burnham's plan for power. The next Prime Minister sets out his plan to revive the economy, and it will be a major push for devolution, tax-raising powers for your local councils in his first big speech this morning.
This now is the change moment. We have an opportunity to turn the tide, to make the country feel like it's working again.
Drones over destroyers. Britain moves to drone-equipped warships as ministers scrap ageing fleet plans in a major defence reset.
White pupils failed. An independent inquiry finds the education system, we could have told them this, abandons white working class children, and it calls for once-in-a-generation reforms. The Children's Commission for England, Rachel de Souza, for one, welcomes the report.
And the government should be thinking about employers investing, in those areas, particularly those left behind areas.
Well, Kate conquers the climb. The Princess of Wales completes the Three Peaks Challenge, raising awareness after her own cancer battle.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills.
Well, the princess is believed to be the first member of the royal family to complete the gruelling challenge in under 24 hours as well. And now members of the public are taking to social media saying they spotted the princess walking solo on the hills.
Forgive the pun, cod almighty. On average, Brits are forking out £11 now for a portion of fish and chips, compared to £6.50 just 7 years ago. This is a big disappointment. Shabana Mahmood is the cabinet tough guy, the one we really thought had what it takes, one who was going to get a grip of the massive problems with our asylum system, our failed border policy. We felt she could do it as a Muslim politician. We thought that made it easier, but it seems at the first sign of trouble, she's backing down.
Well, absolutely, and even the stringent indefinite leave to remain reforms that she's bringing in have not yet passed, which means many, many people who came across 5 years ago are now starting to get permanent residency. And then we hear that this new refugee sponsorship scheme will allow community groups, which could mean some of the campaigning charities that are desperately campaigning to get more asylum seekers over here, could sponsor people for just a year from all sorts of countries across the world, and then suddenly they're allowed permanent residency. It doesn't seem to be an improvement on what we've got.
No, and also then citizen juries, effectively. You watching, listening, could become a juror to decide on an asylum application. What do we know about it?
Well, true, although the judges seem to grant everybody leave to remain, so perhaps it could be an improvement.
I tell you what, if I'm one of those jurors, I think you could be quite sure I'd be pretty rigorous about saying, on your bike, or on your boat.
You'd probably have to do quite a lot of DEI training, Andrew, before you're accepted for the position. You might not pass.
May not. We'll see.
More's a pity. Well, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views and post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Bethany Elsey.
Good morning. Your headlines at 9:35. In his first major speech as Labour leader hopeful, Andy Burnham will promise the greatest transfer of power from Westminster in modern times as part of a 10-year plan to raise living standards across the UK. Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. The top reason for referrals is anxiety. The Royal Navy is ditching plans for a new generation of destroyers in favour of drone command ships to deal with growing Russian threats in the Atlantic. It's part of a new defence investment plan due to be announced in days. Millions of households face higher energy bills from Wednesday, with the average annual bill to increase by more than £200. And Emma Raducanu has pulled out of Wimbledon the day before she was due to play her first tennis match. She's apparently got a stress fracture in her lower right leg. Those are your latest headlines. I'll have more for you at 10 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So finally, we are going to get the Prime Minister-elect will show us a little bit of ankle, and he's going to make a major speech. I'm told it'll only be 20 minutes. That'll be an improvement on Starman borathons. And it will all be about, in my understanding, devolution. He's a greater Manchester mayor, or was. He wants to see more power from Whitehall to the mayoralties. That will mean, Miriam, without a doubt, tax-raising powers, which means more taxes for all of us. But he will argue that those councils will know how to spend it wisely, more carefully, but it'll be more money coming out of your pocket.
Indeed,
sure.
But then at least they'll be accountable, and when they face election, people will have to decide whether or not they want those politicians who want to raise or cut taxes. Whereas at the moment, these big metro mayors, like Andrew Burnham has been one, we've obviously got Sadiq Khan in London, others across the country, they can spend what they like and then come back to Whitehall begging for more.
Yeah.
And then they can present that as a win to local people. Whereas if they had to say to people, well, I want to spend more money on transport, but that means I'm going to put your taxes up, there would be a real choice at the ballot box between different politicians with different tax policies, which there isn't at the moment.
And, of course, the other big story today is immigration, of course. Shabana Mahmood, the tough guy in the Cabinet, one of the most effective performers, I would say, in the Cabinet, Miriam, it was going to get really tough. She is to introduce a new sponsorship scheme offering safe and legal routes for migrants in an effort to deter small boat arrivals. So that's going to encourage them.
Well, absolutely. And wouldn't it just be a second option? If you can't get through on the refugee scheme, well, try on a small boat. I don't see why it's going to stop small boats. It would just mean that people who don't think they've got a chance on the sponsorship scheme will go across the channel.
And she's also announcing plans for members of the public, that could be you or me, anybody watching or listening, to be trained to decide asylum appeals instead of immigration judges. I think it will be in addition to immigration judges, to speed up outcomes.
Well, we're joined now by the MP for Kingston upon Hull East, Carl Turner. Mr Turner, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you'll be relieved to know we're not going to ask you about the massive state of flux in the Labour Party at the moment or the leadership shenanigans. We want to focus on immigration. Now, Shabana Mahmood, as Andrew's just said, has this reputation for being quite tough on immigration. She's had a lot of backlash from MPs on the left in your party. But to us, this plan for a new sponsorship scheme seems like a bit of a capitulation to the asylum charities that are trying to get more and more asylum seekers across into this country, perhaps against the wishes of the British people.
Good morning, Miriam and Andrew, indeed. Look, I've not really looked at the fine detail of this, I've got to be honest with you, but you're right to point out that Shabana Mahmood is what we would describe as a fairly strong minister. I think she's got a good record in the Home Office. I'm impressed by her, and she's trying to grapple with the problem that was inherited by the previous by the Labour government under Keir Starmer. That is the reality. The small boats crisis got out of control, and she's looking to find a way of safe and legal routes. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, if you're happy to accept that some of those people who end up in this country are people who are entitled to make a claim for asylum, then that's fine. The reality is, though, we don't know who's coming at the minute, and that's the problem we have to address.
And how also, Mr Turner, will it be then that people like me or ordinary, let's say one of my neighbours becomes one of these judges who are going to be given some training, how are they going to be aware of all the well-known dodges that these people have been trained in by the people smugglers in the first place? How will they possibly have the skill set to be able to see whether they're telling the truth or not?
Well, I've got to declare an interest, Andrew, because my dear wife is a judge in the immigration tribunal system. So she's a full-time paid judge. She does this job for a living. She never tells me about the stuff she gets up to. But the truth is, these people who are judges in the tribunal system are experts in the field, and they become a judge and they do know the questions to ask in order to get to the truth of the matter. Now, if this scheme, which I happen to think is bonkers at first sight, is anything to do with David Lammy, what I would say to Shabana and Andy Burnham, who's going to be the PM in a few weeks from now, we think, just be careful. Because if the Justice Secretary has had anything to do with this policy, had any involvement whatsoever, I would be incredibly cautious about taking it on, because in my experience, anything that he implemented or tried to implement was fairly problematic. That would be the first point of caution.
Can we just jump in there? The Justice Secretary being Mr David Lammy.
Yeah, I think anything that I've got to tell you, I think anything that David Lammy planned to implement or indeed implemented needs to be carefully reviewed. Because in my experience of David Lammy, he was just not up to the job. I've said it to him privately. I've said it in public. I'll say it again. I've said it to Andy Burnham. I'll say it for as long as I have to say it until people listen. The stuff he was doing, including the jury curtailment stuff, that was the worst for me, was utterly bonkers, in my view, and I'm a person who's been around the criminal justice system for a lot of years, I happen to think I know more about it than anybody else in Parliament, thank you very friendly, but they never listened because they knew better.
Let's just move away from David Lammy, who may or may not have been influential in this policy. Aside from the reform that would place members of the public on this tribunal, one of the other aspects of the reform is that we would move to a single opportunity for appeal rather than a two-tier tribunal at present. And the advantage of that would be that the decisions would be made more quickly, that potentially asylum seekers would not have chance to lay down roots in this country, such as starting a family, which would then give them further rights under the ECHR. Would you support that aspect of the move to make it quicker and only one opportunity to appeal against deportation?
I think we need to speed up the system, but I'm not expert in it, Miriam, at all, to be honest with you. But I think the problem we might encounter with this is we get away with the first tier, we do away with the most of the first tier tribunal judges, and then we're looking at the appeal scenario. So you've then got a floodgates happening in the upper court, which is the upper tribunal, which will effectively become the appeal court from the lay bench on the first tier. That's a problem, right? Because you have to, in order to comply with your international obligations, you have to have a system of appeal. So you might be trying to save a few quid, you might be trying to speed the system up, but you've got to be very careful because you might end up with a scenario whereby the floodgates is happening, but it's happening in the upper tribunal where it's a lot more expensive.
But the
you've got to be careful about what you implement.
But the government does have a plan to combat that because there's legislation coming before Parliament tomorrow that will reduce people's rights under the ECHR. For example, the claim that you have a right to a family life under Article 8 will be limited by the government only to immediate family. So there are reforms that the government is trying to make to close the floodgates, I suppose, using your words.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the actual procedure and the system of appealing from this new apparent magistrates type version of the Immigration Appeal Tribunal. What's going to happen if an individual is appealing from that? Where do they go? There's got to be a system of appeal. I agree the legislation is going to be tweaked in Parliament tomorrow. I might well support it. I don't know. I've not decided. But the reality is we can't just look at a thing and say, well, I'll tell you how we're going to fix that. We're going to bring this in, when in fact the entirety of the profession, as I understand it, say this won't work. The guy who's leading this, as I understand it in the Labour Party, is a man called Tony Vaughan, King's Counsel. You ought to have him on because he knows his onions. He knows an awful lot more than I'll ever know about the Immigration Appeal Tribunal system. He's the guy to speak to. As I understand it, he thinks this is a shocker of an idea. I think he thinks it's bonkers.
Mr Turner, just very briefly, it's just one answer really. If the new Labour Prime Minister doesn't stop the boats, can Labour win the next election?
I think it's a brilliant question, and it is the question that he needs to be answering, actually, because we need to do something about this. But let's be remembering, Andrew, part of the reason people are coming on small boats is because of the fact that we don't have an arrangement anymore because we left the EU. Some of us thought it was a crap idea. Some of us thought it was a great idea. I am to think it was a terrible idea. I'm happy to stick to my guns on that. I always will think it was a bad idea. Unmitigatable disaster.
All right, always tells us as he tells it. Kingston upon Hull East MP Carl Turner, very good to talk to you this morning. I wonder if he'll get the whip. I wonder if he'll get the whip restored to him because he resigned the whip over.
Yes, the jury reforms. Well, there does seem to be a bit of a state of anarchy in the Labour Party at the moment. It's very similar to the dying days of Liz Truss, where people just voted however they liked because there was no one in charge.
He's also referring to the Dublin Agreement, which we had when we were in the EU, but that enabled only a handful of people to be deported.
And also, the small boats crisis started in 2018 before the withdrawal agreement, so we hadn't left the EU. And, in a way, the small boats crisis has replaced the lorry crisis. Many, many people were coming across, but just on lorries, not boats, before we sorted it out. So I'm not sure what it's got to do with Brexit.
The Dublin Agreement was not the glittering panacea here that people are pretending.
Anyway, other supermarket cereals are available.
We have a statement to read from the Home Secretary. Miriam likes reading them.
I do. Today, our appeals tribunal is overwhelmed. As a result, people are gaming the system, lodging vexatious appeals to frustrate their removal. Our new appeals body will ensure claims are heard swiftly and fairly. Those with a legitimate claim will get their hearing. Those who have no right to remain in this country and are abusing the system will be swiftly removed.
Now, still ahead, an independent inquiry finds the education system, funny that, abandons white working-class kids. And it's calling for a once-in-a-generation reform. No, you're not thinking I've not heard that before. You have, probably every year since GBNews started. But up next...
The Princess of Wales completes the Three Peaks Challenge, becoming the first member of the royal family to do so. And Harry and Meghan continue to dither on whether or not they'll be coming to Britain.
Might they not come after all?
You haven't invited them, Andrew. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Devastated.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
But there's a huge amount of psychological evidence. There's lots of theories about when people make decisions and follow them with actions, their behaviour becomes consistent with the choice they made. So if you get married, you're more likely to see each other with rose-tinted spectacles, that kind of thing. The signal value of marriage is absolutely huge. I was talking to a young couple who are newly engaged just the other day, and they said it was amazing how it actually changed the way that they felt about their relationship. So it does provide extra security, and doing it in front of your friends makes a huge difference as well. It holds you to account. So there's a huge psychology behind the act of marriage. So it would be weird if there wasn't any effect at all. I found that your family background, so your age, your education, income, affects about half of your chance of staying together.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The art world has lost its darling, probably the most respected, celebrated, influential artist of the 20th and 21st century. And as you say, career spanning 7 decades, whether you're looking at his portraits or his Californian swimming pools or his spectacular Yorkshire landscapes, he made art for the people. The art world can be a rather snobby place, which is unfortunate at times, but he made art for the people. If you think about the portraits, the people that he painted, whether it be Mr. and Mrs. Ossie Clark, the fashion designer, and Percy the cat, or Harry Styles, or a portrait of his carer.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, I'm going to try and explain what SpaceX is. It's set to become one of the most valuable companies in the world. But it's not just about rockets. Everyone will be aware. OK, well, it'd be really nice if Elon Musk could could help us out with our tech here, because I'm trying to draw a rocket and we're not able to. What is going on? I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid our very own. Let's see. No, we're not. I'll try and explain what's going on with SpaceX without any visual aids. How disappointing! It's 3 companies really. It's a rocket company, it's a communications company, and it's an AI company, all in one. It controls 84% of the commercial launch market in this country.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 11 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
So, the Princess of Wales, good on her, has completed the Three Peaks Challenge to raise money for cancer, becoming the first royal to complete the feat. Have a watch.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills. But more importantly, it's to give something back and acknowledge really all the incredible work going on up in this country.
Well, GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker joins us now. Cameron, this is quite an impressive physical feat. I mean, 3 mountains that take 4 or 5 hours to climb each, long drive in between Snowdon and Scafell Pike and Ben Nevis. People have to be pretty fit to complete this within 24 hours, and she's done it. doing.
Yeah, she absolutely has. And under 24 hours, the first member of the royal family believed to have done so. And there's also now social media content of walkers who just happened to come across the Princess of Wales on social media, being like, what's going on here? And you can tell from that footage, she very much was solo. This isn't any kind of palace spin. She was by herself. She wants to do it for a personal reason, of course, very gruelling challenge, but also to raise money and awareness for the Royal Marsden charity, of course, Royal Marsden Hospital, where she received her cancer treatment, so very personal to her. And for the Princess, as she's spoken about, you know, a lot over the last year or 2 years, as well as the clinical side of the recovery and the medicine she was getting, the holistic side was very important to her, getting out and about in nature. And just to top it all off, at the very end of the climb of Snowdon, which was the final peak she climbed, she had the Princess of Wales, the 3 children, and her parents and her brother there to greet her. So all happy families. Yeah.
Nice. Now, one part of the family that's not so happy is that prodigal boy, Harry. What's the latest? Is he coming?
Harry is definitely coming. I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people care. I mean, a lot of people also don't care. I think the security issue is where the sticking point appears to be yet again. So there was a risk management board look at should Harry's security threat be raised, the level of threat against him be raised, because it was the first time that that's happened in about 6 years. They then gave their findings to RAVEC, which is the Home Office committee, which decides the level of protection on individuals. Now, it appears that RAVEC has said, well, actually, the security you get when you come to the UK is satisfactory enough. Now, there's no armed police that he gets. There's no kind of police escort he gets either. It's basically a police liaison phone number. That's kind of all he gets. You know, he does have a stalker, but arguably he is no longer a working member of the royal family either. He is still 5th in line to the throne. I think from Harry's perspective, he will say, look, Taylor Swift gets security when she comes here to the UK. I think the British taxpayer argument would be, well, she contributes millions of pounds to the economy when she comes here through her Eras tour. Salman Rushdie, of course, was provided with 10 years, 24-hour police protection when he was in the UK as well, having written the Satanic Verses.
He can pay for his own.
But they won't let him pay for his own, Andrew, because a judge rules that you cannot pay, you can't hire the police, because that sets a really bad precedent.
I think it's private to offer.
Cameron, thank you so much for that.
It always turns into a drama with him, doesn't it?
Oh, no, absolutely. Never ends. Well, coming up next, Conservative leader Kevin Badenoch will set out her plans to fix Britain's economy, conveniently a few hours before Andy Burnham. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry weather today, feeling warm, certainly not quite as humid as it did last week, and there will be some showers on the cards. These mostly in the northwest, particularly across western areas of Scotland, though any showers should become quite well scattered by the afternoon, so hopefully some bright, if not sunny spells in between. We can see across the bulk of the country it should be mostly dry, a mix of cloud and also some brighter spells. Mostly light winds as well, so where we do see any sunshine it should feel rather warm and pleasant, highs reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius, but like I said, not quite as humid as the last few days. Now, to finish off the day across Scotland, there'll still be quite a decent amount of cloud around, still some lingering showers across the south, perhaps the best of the brightness across the very far north of Scotland. But notice behind me there is some rain on its way, some heavy, if not thundery showers initially across Northern Ireland, pushing their way northeastwards. But actually elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be quite a dry end to the day, plenty of clear skies. Gradually turning more and more unsettled through the overnight period, however. These heavy showers will continue to push their way northeastwards before longer spells of rain start to push into parts of the northwest. Now, this could be rather heavy at times, if not quite thundery, some quite blustery winds as well. Even to the south where we don't see any rain, there's going to be quite a lot of cloud around and potentially some showers. Still quite a mild night, temperatures not dropping much below 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But Tuesday itself does look like a rather unsettled day. Spells of rain continuing in the northwest, still heavy and thundery at times. Then we do have this band of heavy showers eventually pushing into northwest England, Wales and parts of the southwest as well. These too could also be heavy with the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the brightness will be across central and southeast England. This is where we'll see the highest of the temperatures as well, highs reaching between 23 to 24 degrees Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A192 at Melville Lodges roundabout is restricted due to a collision. Eastbound on the M4 between junction 28 Tredegar Park and junction 24 Coldra is congested. In Cambridgeshire, on the A14 eastbound between junction 23 and 24, one of 3 lanes is closed due to a broken down vehicle. On the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent, 1 lane is closed for a tyre change between junction 5 and 4. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast runs a reduced service, while Grand Central faces disruption between Newark Northgate and Grantham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's a great British giveaway Golden Summer Celebration. Your chance to win 2 fantastic prizes. There's an incredible £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also get your hands on a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. 1 entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Monday, the 29th of June. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Home Secretary talked tough as recently as November.
I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern.
Public judges plan members of the public will be trained to decide asylum appeals instead of immigration judges to speed up the process. How do you think that will go?
Meanwhile, Burnham plans for power. Labour frontrunner Andy Burnham sets out his plan to revive the economy and will push for devolution in his first major speech this morning.
This now is the change moment. We have an opportunity to turn the tide, to make the country feel like it's working again.
Any moment now, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch will set out her plan to fix Britain's economy conveniently just before Andy Burnham does his.
And drones over destroyers. Britain moves to drone-equipped warships as ministers scrap ageing fleet plans in a major defence reset.
White pupils failed. An independent inquiry finds the education system abandons white working-class children and it calls for once-in-a-generation reforms. If it sounds familiar, it is. The Children's Commissioner for England, Rachel de Souza, has welcomed this latest outpouring.
And the government should be thinking about employers investing, in those areas, particularly those left-behind areas.
Well, people here in Goldthorpe in Yorkshire tell us that areas like this are being forgotten about, and with them, the opportunities for young people coming out of school. We're live here in this hour.
And Kate conquers the climb. The Princess of Wales completes the 3 Peaks Challenge, raising awareness after her own cancer battle.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills.
Forgive the pun, but God almighty. On average, Brits are forking out £11 for a portion of fish and chips. It was only £6.50 for the same meal 7 years ago.
Andrew, have you ever climbed any of those mountains?
I have not.
Ah.
I'd have a go, but I mean, that's quite a something.
It is. I've done 2 out of the 3, but not under any time pressure. Having to drive through the night and everything is quite a challenge.
It is a challenge, and she's shown how she's made a remarkable recovery from cancer. She's a great advertisement for the royal family, isn't she? Unlike the wayward Harry, who Willie won't he, this big fuss about will he come here with his wife and children. People will get to the point and they'll say, you know what, mate, we couldn't care less.
Do you think they enjoy keeping everybody in suspense? Because it keeps them in the headlines, doesn't it?
I think it does, and it's all to do with whether they get the security cover that he thinks is commensurate with his status. He's also said he's worried that paparazzi will be pursuing his children in the back of a car. It ain't going to happen, Harry. That's over. That ended
yes, I mean, the rules and what is established behaviour has changed
decades.
quite a lot since then. I mean, he definitely needs security, there's no doubt about that, but of course the question is who should pay for it?
What happened to his mother in that Paris underpass will never happen again to a British royal. It won't be British paparazzi anymore.
No, absolutely. Well, we'd love to know what you think about this and all the other stories that we're covering today. Send your views and comments to
GBNews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom at 3 minutes past 10. Andy Burnham will promise the greatest transfer of power from Westminster in modern times as part of a 10-year plan to raise living standards across the UK. The new Labour MP for Makerfield's first major speech as the Labour leader hopeful will focus on devolution and the economy. One of his flagship proposals is handed a number 10 North, which involves breaking off parts of Whitehall to Manchester. If no other candidate emerges, he could be the new Prime Minister in a matter of weeks. Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. Around 1 in 10 children are either referred, waiting for, or receiving treatment, with demand almost doubling since 2018. The top reason for referrals is anxiety. The Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, says intervention needs to happen much earlier.
When I speak to children, they're talking to me about worries about money, worries about getting a job when they're 9 or 10 years old. They're spending hours of their days on social media apps. The way we're bringing our children up really needs a good think. We need to support them far better. And when they do show signs of worries, show signs of worries of anxiety, dealing with it early.
An independent inquiry has found the education system has failed white working-class pupils in England. The year-long inquiry says they remain the lowest performing major group in schools and are calling for a one-in-a-generation reforms. Co-chair Baroness Estelle Morris says the issues can't be explained away by low aspiration or lack of effort, and that schools can't solve the issue alone. The Royal Navy is ditching plans for a new generation of destroyers in favour of drone command ships under the government's biggest defence shake-up in years. At least 6 new common combat vessels will work alongside crewed warships and autonomous systems, with ministers saying they'll strengthen Britain's response to growing Russian threats in the Atlantic. The Defence Investment Plan, which is due to be published within days, comes with an extra £14.5 billion in funding, but critics say that's not enough. The number of people killed in the twin earthquakes which hit Venezuela last week has almost reached 1,500. International rescue teams are working to free people from the rubble in La Guaira. That's the hardest hit state in the country. Millions of households across the UK face higher energy bills this week, with the average annual bill increasing by more than £200. Ofgem's latest price cap means a typical gas and electricity customer will pay around £1,800 a year. Analysts expect prices to remain steady in October, though, easing fears of another increase before winter. The Princess of Wales has completed the Three Peaks Challenge to raise money for a cancer charity.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills. But more importantly, it's to give something back.
Catherine has become the first royal to climb the highest mountains in Scotland, England and Wales within 24 hours. She says the challenge will support the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity, which increases access and understanding of holistic care.
That journey is.
And Emma Raducanu has pulled out of Wimbledon the day before the tennis tournament began due to an injury. She was seeded 30th and was due to play today against Croatia's Antonija Rusic. On court one, the 23-year-old has a stress fracture in her lower right leg and says she's been medically advised to withdraw. Those are your latest headlines for now. Let's get an update for you from the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.32 and 1.16 euros. The price of gold is £3,070 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 10,499 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we've got in the studio political commentator Judita De Silva, who you know well, and I think a first time for this programme, former Tory advisor Thomas Day. If we tell you he worked for Rishi Sunak, you might think, poor him. How did that go?
Yeah, well, nice to start off on a good foot, Thomas. You're very welcome.
Better than being an advisor to Starmer, I'd say.
That is a very good point.
Yeah. Wasn't it? I mean, he was doomed from the day he started, in my view. He took over from Truss. It was all over.
Wow.
Careful,
history books will write about that.
I suspect enhanced his demise.
I'm sure. Shall we start with immigration? Judita, Shabana Mahmood has built up a reputation, Andrew said, of being the tough guy. She's the one that the Labour left fear, the one that the right are willing on with her reforms to immigration. Yet it seems to be being watered down right now, this idea that the public should decide immigration appeals, that indefinite leave to remain, those reforms are not yet being passed, even though the people who came over on the Boris wave are already settling. And now this refugee scheme where communities will be able to sponsor people coming over. All they have to do is provide lodging and food for a year, and then people are essentially welcomed into Britain.
In a cynical way, I actually think it's a clever move to make, because no matter what decision currently in the environment, no matter what decision is made around immigration, someone's not going to be happy, and the blame always goes towards the politicians. You're out of touch, you're not listening to the people. But creating a policy that incorporates the involvement of the people, because every time you even cover it on this channel, you go to communities and say, how do you feel about it? If you're creating a structure that is showing consideration for the sentiment of the people around where these policies are going to be enacted, it proves to be a more effective way of actually policing the situation, as opposed to being seen to be dogmatic and deciding this is a one-size-fits-all, deal with it. So I think it's a clever way to kind of defer responsibility by creating involvement.
But Thomas, I would imagine, knowing everything we do about the judicial system, that for a member of the public to be approved to sit on one of these panels, they'll probably have to go through all sorts of diversity, equality, inclusion training, prove their commitment to equality. Are we really going to end up with a reflective sample of the public, shall we say?
Well, perhaps, but what sort of baffled me about the story was that we've already invented this. It's called magistrates' courts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to look to reform this system and create a panel and so on, why not just allow magistrates' courts to adjudicate over these matters if that's the outcome you want? But also,
Is it because the magistrates' courts are already overwhelmed?
Well, yeah, but why make more courts? It sort of then ends up passing buck and blame, and you have to have new legal specialisms, and there's lots of money to be made there, perhaps cynically.
But isn't the purpose to go from a two-tier system where, in effect, the asylum seekers get 2 bites at the cherry when it comes to appeal, to having a single decision, and as soon as that decision's being made, the process of deportation to start? I mean, that's the kind of basis behind these reforms.
That's what people want. But I don't see the need to invent a new legal system.
As riveting as your thought is going to be, and I know it will be, can you hold it there? Because we are going to cross now live to Kemi Badenoch, who is speaking in central London, and this is her economic blueprint for Britain.
Thank you, Mel, for that fantastic introduction. Britain is heading for a summer of chaos. We have a caretaker Prime Minister, barely in office, definitely not in power. All major policy and spending decisions have been put on hold. The last Defence Secretary resigned because the money needed to keep Britain safe has not been found. Ministers of the Home Office are fighting each other. In fact, the Immigration Minister has been banned from seeing government documents. Rachel Reeves is ringing round businesses, trying to get them to say that sacking her would risk destabilising the economy, as if that hasn't happened already. What she should have had was the good grace to resign alongside Keir Starmer. Meanwhile, trade unions are arguing about their favoured candidates to be the next Chancellor. The government is descending into chaos, and no one is dealing with the serious and urgent threats that this country faces. War in Europe and the Middle East, and an underfunded defence investment plan that is putting our troops in danger, public spending spiralling out of control, and no plan or political will to cut benefits. Yet we are importing oil and gas from Norway and even Russia, while banning new oil and gas drilling in the North Sea. Difficult problems need solving, and difficult decisions must be taken. But the man who will be Prime Minister in a couple of weeks wants a 3-month summer holiday because he needs some time to work out what he thinks. He will spend the next 3 months with unions and left-wing think tanks demanding policy changes which nobody voted for. Andy Burnham is already the Prime Minister in everything but name. He needs to act like a leader, put an end to speculation, walk into number 10, name his cabinet, and come to Parliament to tell the country what he plans to do. Instead, he is allowing the speculation and this chaos to run and run. He has clearly learned nothing from the disastrous speculation before Rachel Reeves' last budget. Do you remember the one where she went on breakfast TV with an emergency press conference and frightening messages about income tax? That speech, according to the chief economist of the Bank of England, became the single biggest reason that growth flatlined. Her chaotic briefing had real-world consequences. Investment decisions were paused. People lost their jobs. And because Andy Burnham is not taking charge and shutting down this speculation, it is already happening again. People are worried about capital gains tax, so they're changing their investment decisions. The car industry is in limbo again because they don't know when petrol cars will be phased out. Everyone is terrified about what will happen if Ed Miliband becomes the Chancellor. The same is true in every sector of the economy. Britain is facing a summer of chaos. Investment decisions across the country will be put on hold every time the newspapers are briefed about new tax rises. The markets will react every time it looks like Britain is going to be borrowing more money. Our economy will be left in limbo. And all Labour MPs care about is which jobs they'll be getting in the new government. The fact is, whether Andy Burnham likes it or not, Britain is facing a harsh economic reality. Our national debt is nearly 100% of GDP. Our credit card is maxed out. We are spending more on debt interest alone than we do on defense. We are already paying more to borrow than Greece and Morocco. Any signal that Andy Burnham intends to borrow even more money will instantly mean higher borrowing costs. But he won't have to pay them, we will, in higher mortgage costs, in higher taxes, and someday this money will have to be paid back, and that burden will fall on our children and grandchildren. We need to cut spending. Public spending is already unsustainable, and it is becoming more unsustainable every day. But is his priority going to be getting it under control? Or is it going to be giving out more welfare handouts to keep his backbenchers happy? Because it sounds, from everything we've heard, like his priority is to send money to the north of England to try and bribe voters at the next election. The proposals Andy Burnham will announce in his speech today are not some radical new agenda. They are old hat. He says Britain has underperformed because power, money, and decision-making are trapped in Whitehall and London. Where have I heard this before? Another mayor who became Prime Minister had a devolution agenda. He had a treasury in the north. Andy Burnham wants a number 10 in the north. But Burnham's devolution agenda, unlike ours, is stripped of private enterprise and ownership. It is loaded with Labour's instincts, more public control, more regulation, more taxes, all of the very things which have caused the problems we have today. They will mean more power taken away from Parliament, but more and more government created all over the country, more politicians, more outsourcing of decisions to bodies with even less scrutiny and accountability. If you look under the hood of Andy Burnham's proposals, you will find at their core a mistaken belief. The belief that it is government that creates growth. It is not. It is business that creates growth. It is business that creates growth, it is business that creates jobs, and business is absent from Andy Burnham's agenda. Politicians are there to create the conditions for growth and then get out of the way. Low tax, simple regulation, stable government, cheap energy. If you don't fix those things, nothing will grow in your economy. The solution is to let people build things again, give them the incentives, the prospect of reward for taking risks. If you fix the underlying conditions in our economy, I promise you that housing and infrastructure will be built faster than any scheme that Andy Burnham can come up with. If Britain is to succeed over the next 2 decades, we are going to need to lead the world in sectors like AI, quantum, defense tech. More regional mayors aren't going to do any of this. Instead of treating the causes of our economic problems, Andy Burnham is going to try and treat the symptoms. That's why our Conservative plan is to do 5 things to fix our economy. 5 things that will help every single person in this country. If Andy Burnham wants to avoid a summer of chaos, he shouldn't start by announcing our 5 policies himself. 1, cut the cost of energy. 2, get people working, cut the welfare bill, scrap the Employment Rights Act. 3, cut taxes. 4, slash burdensome regulation. And 5, champion business, not more politicians. Champion the risk takers, champion the job creators. Those are the people who will actually get out there and hire young people. We don't need 100 different schemes run by 100 different mayors. Those 5 actions will spark growth in every corner of the country and every sector of the economy. That's why they are our policy. Let me explain more. Energy is growth, and we are never going to grow our economy while paying the highest industrial energy prices in the developed world. There is a reason that Conservatives have won a by-election in Scotland for the first time in 50 years. We won that by-election because we are the only party in Britain standing up for Britain's oil and gas sector. To be honest, we're the only party even talking about drilling in the North Sea. Ed Miliband's policy of sanctioning Aberdeen oil and gas while buying gas from Russia has been rejected. It is time to get Britain drilling again. And if Andy Burnham had any sense, he would sack Ed Miliband, not make him Chancellor. Mr. Burnham needs to get Britain working again. Everyone can see that the welfare bill is spiralling out of control. It's not just that we can't afford the cost of benefits, which we can't. We also can't afford to waste the potential of millions of people who can work sitting at home. Getting our economy growing again is going to need a war effort, and everyone who can work will need to play their part. Andy Burnham says he wants to use mayors to cut the benefits bill. How? He couldn't do it. The number of people on benefits in Greater Manchester has surged in recent years. If he couldn't do it, why does he expect others to? Cutting welfare means taking tough decisions. That's what real leadership is. Spending other people's money is easy. Balancing the books is hard. And it's even harder when all of your parliamentary party do is go around asking who they can tax to pay for more benefits. So he must cut the taxes holding this country back, not put them up. Once you have done the difficult work of making savings and fully funded the Defence Investment Plan, you can start to bring down taxes and give our economy the jolt of life it needs. Our plan is to abolish business rates for most of the high street, scrap the family farms tax, scrap the family business tax, and abolish stamp duty on family homes. And there is more to come. But we are showing how we will pay for it. And we will pay for that through our savings program, cutting welfare, shrinking the size of the civil service while bringing the deficit down. Andy Burnham needs to cut the red tape that is strangling business, stopping us from building the homes and infrastructure we need. He can devolve all he likes to mayors. Mayors cannot change the law. If Britain is going to compete in the world in an age of rapid technological change, it needs to be easy to build things here, to try new things. Our financial services sector, for example, one of this country's greatest assets, is now more regulated than its competitors. That's why 2 weeks ago, I announced our plan to cut red tape for the city and unleash up to £450 billion of new lending. That's the kind of thinking Burnham needs. £450 billion without borrowing, without more taxing. He needs to champion the businesses, the risk takers, the wealth creators, the employers who get this country moving, not champion having more politicians. So much of the rhetoric that comes out of left-wing politicians from people like Louise Haigh or Neil Lawson and others advising Andy Burnham, so much of that rhetoric is that business is evil, the wealth creation is evil. It isn't. New ideas, innovation, capital, that's what drives progress. That's what improves our lives. Keir Starmer had plenty of good advice, not least of all from me. But I wasn't the only one. Many others gave him good advice, including Tony Blair. Did he listen? No, he didn't, and now he's gone. Andy Burnham should not make that same mistake. I would be very happy to sit down with him. I quite like Andy Burnham. He's very genial, he's very personable. I would be very happy to sit down with him, show him our plans, they are public, share with him the alternative King's speech we set out at the beginning of this session that shows how a lot of this could be achieved. In the national interest, I would be happy to lend him Conservative votes in Parliament to pass tough legislation that his backbenchers don't have the stomach for. No one in this country wants a Prime Minister held over a barrel by a load of left-wing MPs. If Andy Burnham wants to be the first Labour Prime Minister to leave office with unemployment lower than when he came in, he needs to get a grip of the party he is already leading. He needs to put an end to the chaos and the speculation. Mr. Burnham is clearly desperate to be in charge, but Prime Minister is not a ceremonial position. He doesn't have a plan beyond telling mayors to go and sort it out. This is not good enough. There is a country to govern. Devolved mayors are not going to fund the Defence Investment Plan. He needs to come to Parliament, tell us what he wants to do, and face some questions from MPs, the people elected to hold the government to account. Giving speeches in Manchester and not taking any questions is simply not good enough. Britain cannot afford a summer of chaos, not another one. We cannot afford 3 months in limbo. We cannot afford 3 months without a government. Andy Burnham should delay the summer's parliamentary recess by just a day or two, come to the House and tell us his plan for this country. This is not a game. It should not be a soap opera. If he wants to be the leader of our country, it is time to start acting like it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So, unlike some people who are giving speeches today, I will be taking questions from the media. And let's start with ITV. Jasmine Cameron Cheleshi. I hope I said that right.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Jasmine Cameron Cheleshi, ITV News. Andy Burnham is expected to outline plans for a so-called number 10 North. You've served in cabinet before. How realistic is it to have, in effect, 2 centres of power? And secondly, Mr. Burnham's broader argument is that he can deliver radical change, but within the current fiscal rules. Do you think that's possible? And if not, should there be an early general election? Thank you.
So thank you. I don't think it is really feasible to have number 10 in the North. As a Secretary of State, there were many times that I had to go to number 10 and then go into Parliament. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had to go up and down to Manchester at the same time. We did have, for instance, a second Treasury campus in the North. That was for civil servants. It was for other ministers. It was not for the Prime Minister. I don't think he really understands what it is that he is saying. He's been out of Parliament for nearly 10 years. I think Andy Burnham has forgotten how a lot of things work. I don't think there actually will be a number 10 in the North. And then you asked about the fiscal rules and a general election. It is possible to have radical change even within Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules. The radical change has to be that 5-point plan that I talked about. You can cut energy costs within those rules. You can cut taxes. You can cut red tape. You can champion business. You can have flexible labour markets and get people working again. But there is one thing that he should not do. John Healey told us that the Defence Investment Plan was not funded and that he was not able to keep our country safe with the money he was being given. If Andy Burnham signs off on that Defence Investment Plan, or if he does not find the money, then I do think he should call a general election, because we can't all pretend that John Healey didn't say what he said. We all know for a fact that our country is not being properly protected, and that should be his first priority, not devolving to regional mayors. Rob Powell, Sky News.
Hi, thank you, Rob Powell, Sky News. Kemi Badenoch, for months you've been calling for Keir Starmer to resign. He's now said he will, but you now seem annoyed that there's a power vacuum and no decisions are being made. Don't you think there's an irony there? And isn't this just the inevitable result of a PM changing, something you've been working pretty hard in recent months to make happen?
No, it's not the inevitable result of a Prime Minister changing. It is the inevitable result of Andy Burnham wanting to be Prime Minister but not having a plan. People not having plans is why we are changing Prime Minister so often. And if Andy Burnham comes in without a plan, he is going to have another short tenure. Making announcements is not the same thing as having a plan. So I want a swift and steady transition because I want to be able to ask the Prime Minister what he is doing for or to our country. I'm the leader of the opposition. That's my job. I'm not able to do my job. I was elected constitutionally to do this. I want to be able to do my job, which is hold the government to account. And right now, there's not really anyone to hold to account, and the Labour ministers are too busy trying to sort out jobs for themselves. That is not right. Catherine Foster, GB News.
Thank you. Catherine Forster, GB News. You've said you quite like Andy Burnham. He seems to be undecided on his Chancellor, so perhaps you could give him a bit of advice. Sharon Graham has said of Ed Miliband that he would put a noose around the neck of employers, but Wes Streeting wants to equalise capital gains tax with income tax. Who do you think would be perhaps his least bad option? Thank you.
I've always said that the problem was not just Keir Starmer, the problem was the whole Labour Party. There aren't many good options. They couldn't even pick a Prime Minister from the 400 people in Parliament. They had to go and get the Mayor of Manchester to do it. I do know that it should not be Ed Miliband. I know that it should not be Ed Miliband. He is the single person who has done the most to deindustrialise our country and make us poorer. He should not be rewarded with an even more powerful job where he can completely bankrupt the country. So it's slim pickings, I have to admit, but absolutely not Ed Miliband. That would be a disaster for the country. Genevieve Hall-Allen from The Telegraph.
Hi. Louise Hay, who you've mentioned and who is a prominent figure in Andy Burnham's circle, said last week that
that's Kemi Badenoch giving a speech on her proposals for the economy, just an hour ahead of Andy Burnham doing the same thing. Interesting timing, Andrew.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about one-upmanship, isn't it? I mean, there was no specifics in that. Cut energy, cut taxes. Well, we all want that. Get rid of that employment regulation bill, reduce regulation, support business, and no more debts, and put defence at the heart of our spending. She made the point also that it is rather, brings you up short. We are paying more in interest on our national debt now than we do on our defence.
Yeah.
A shocking admission.
Extraordinary. Although the seeds were planted for that over the last 20 or 30 years, and the current government is absolutely not fully responsible. I think the political differences she was trying to create between herself and Andy Burnham was that she was saying that Burnham and the left think that government creates growth, and the right believe that business creates growth. That seems to be the dividing line that she's trying to create.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's a good point. Do you think do you agree with that, by the way, Judith Silversworth on our panel, or do you expect your government to be at the economic powerhouse creating the jobs?
Yes, I do, because at the end of the day, there has to be a regulatory overlord, in a sense, when it comes to how everyone operates beneath it. And at the end of the day, she's a Tory, and she's speaking like a Tory. Of course, you're going to say, like, take away the regulation from the finance sector, let them lend and all the rest. But then that has historically created a lot of trouble for SMEs. So if you didn't have the regulations put in the first place to stop them having a chokehold on SMEs, they wouldn't have been in the situation we've seen in decades gone past. But she's talking like a Tory, so she's very on brand. But when she says that you don't have a situation where you need to get the workforce going, look at what they've suggested Andy Burnham's going to talk about. He said you need to change the social attitude towards education in trade. Look at a country like Australia. A vast percentage of people are what they call tradies because they do that profession a lot. If you change the social attitude to that, you motivate a young workforce to get those qualifications early, and then you generate people that are not going to be attuned to going into welfare, but rather be electricians, be plumbers, and you can get earning as soon as you qualify.
Thomas, do you think that Kemi Badenoch's characterisation of Andy Burnham there was unfair, calling him anti-business? I mean, plenty of people in Manchester would say he's been very effective at working with private companies to regenerate Manchester itself.
I think her characterisation is fair because it's standard textbook Labour Party stuff, isn't it? It's Are the solution and the problems in this country? Well, it's not, that we've mismanaged spending. It's not because we've regulated badly. It's not because our shenanigans in Parliament have caused any destabilisation. No. The solution is that we've just not devolved enough power to the regions. And we talk about a lack of talent in the House of Commons. Is devolving and creating new assemblies everywhere going to lead to a sudden overflowing of talent across the country? I really don't think so.
More layers of government.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a Welshman, so I can tell you all about the perils of a lack of talent in a Welsh government.
Very nice independent government now.
Indeed. They're in their first 100 days, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. But you have Manchester, where by all intents and purposes, he's done very well there. He himself managed a government well in Manchester. But is that the same everywhere else? You look at Birmingham, you look at perhaps places in the northeast where that growth and those opportunities and that effective government hasn't happened.
Well, can I just remind people about Birmingham? That blooming bin strike is still on.
Yeah, indeed.
We have to go back there. We haven't forgotten you people of Birmingham.
Absolutely. Jack Carson is on his way.
Get Jack Carson on his way.
Thank you for now to our panel. We'll see you again shortly. But coming up next, a major new report shows that white working-class pupils are being failed by the education system. We'll look at the reasons why.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry weather today, feeling warm, certainly not quite as humid as it did last week, and there will be some showers on the cards. These mostly in the northwest, particularly across western areas of Scotland, though any showers should become quite well scattered by the afternoon, so hopefully some bright, if not sunny spells in between. We can see across the bulk of the country it should be mostly dry, a mix of cloud and also some brighter spells. Mostly light winds as well, so where we do see any sunshine it should feel rather warm and pleasant, highs reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius, but like I said, not quite as humid as the last few days. Now, to finish off the day across Scotland, there'll still be quite a decent amount of cloud around, still some lingering showers across the south, perhaps the best of the brightness across the very far north of Scotland. But notice behind me there is some rain on its way, some heavy, if not thundery showers initially across Northern Ireland, pushing their way northeastwards. But actually elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be quite a dry end to the day, plenty of clear skies. Gradually turning more and more unsettled through the overnight period, however. These heavy showers will continue to push their way northeastwards before longer spells of rain start to push into parts of the northwest. Now this could be rather heavy at times, if not quite thundery, some quite blustery winds as well. Even to the south where we don't see any rain, there's going to be quite a lot of cloud around and potentially some showers. Still quite a mild night, temperatures not dropping much below 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But Tuesday itself does look like a rather unsettled day. Spells of rain continuing in the northwest, still heavy and thundery at times. Then we do have this band of heavy showers eventually pushing into northwest England, Wales and parts of the southwest as well. These too could also be heavy with the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the brightness will be across central and southeast England. This is where we'll see the highest of the temperatures as well. Highs reaching between 23 to 24 degrees Celsius.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. There is currently a road traffic collision that is restricting both directions on the A92 at Melville Lodges roundabout. In Leicestershire, all lanes are closed on the A46 southbound between the A5630 and the junction with the M1 due to a serious crash. Traffic is expected to return to normal between 3:30 and 3:45 this afternoon. Moving on to the trains, Avanti West Coast is operating a reduced service on various routes, while Grand Central is experiencing disruption between Newark Northgate and Grantham. That is all for now. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 20 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. I always say and listening to because you can listen on the radio. I do it all the time while I'm cooking.
I saw the radio topics update. We are way ahead of Talk UK, who are they, and way ahead of Times Radio. Indeed. Who are they?
And
so thank you for listening to such large numbers.
And you don't have to look at our faces.
Well,
we don't need comments on that, just so you know. You've been away for a week. We've had a week off.
They didn't miss me at all, apparently.
We did.
Now, an independent inquiry has found, and it makes me very cross to even read this, because this has been happening for flipping years, Miriam, and you know it ever since you were in Parliament, the education system consistently fails white working-class pupils, normally boys, and this report is calling for a once-in-a-generation reform.
Well, the report says that those children remain the lowest performing major group in England, with co-chair of the review, Baroness Estelle Morris, saying that responsibility cannot sit with schools alone.
Estelle Morris, of course, was a Labour Education Secretary who decided she was so bad at the job, she resigned as Education Secretary when she was in Tony Blair's government. I did question time.
Is that right?
Yeah, she did. She announced, I'm not up to this job, very honourable offer to do so, and gave up.
She sacked herself?
She sacked herself, yeah.
That's very honourable.
Very honourable.
It's slightly worrying.
I did that stupid programme Question Time with her once. It was like doing it with a shadow. She was so jumpy.
Well, let's hope that she's improved in her
She's very nice. She's a very nice, decent woman, and she's now in the House of Lords. So, GB News national reporter Jack Carson is with us now.
Jack, tell us more about the report.
Here we are in Goldthorpe today, and this area, of course, which has such a rich mining history. You don't have to go far before you are reminded of this town's mining history. It's one of the pit villages, which, of course, had 4 collieries in the area back in 1971. Main Street, which is just up the road, was named the nicest street in Britain at that same time. But of course now, as you look around, this town is very, very different. It is boarded up shops. Locals telling us this morning about how people try to open shops here, and then one lad who tried to open a shop was robbed twice in a matter of months, and then just, in the words of that local, threw the towel in. And so ultimately this is a place which embodies really this new report, which says, of course, that 48% of white working class children reach a good level of development by age 5. That is in comparison to 75% of white British children who are classed as not being on school meals. 36%, this report says, of white working class pupils get a grade 4 or above in English and Maths GCSE. That is, in old layman's terms, a C, compared with 72% of other pupils. And so ultimately, we've been speaking to people here this morning. They've been very clear to us that Barnsley Council have put a lot of investment in this area, £25 million worth, to help regenerate, as you can see around us, the nice new pavements, the street furniture, new bus stops. But ultimately, that investment isn't bringing jobs into the area. It's not bringing opportunity for young people into the area. That is another issue which this government is facing, and today announcing that they will give grants to companies who are taking on out-of-work young people into apprenticeships, because places like this, once those collieries closed in 1994, they are now bereft of any opportunities. People we've spoken to this morning have been telling us that when they leave school, they don't stay in the area. They feel like they have to leave to be able to go and get those opportunities. Under half of people in this new education inquiry that has been released today from white working class communities think about going to university, compared to 82% of those from other different communities. But that necessarily, of course, is not a bad thing that young people want to go to university. Of course, so much of it as well is wanting a vocational course. We've seen some people saying on the back of this report that they want those more practical jobs, that necessarily that written work is not for them. And when growing up in these communities, when they come out of school, they want to do something practical, but it just isn't there. So this report calls for a lot of different recommendations. It says that there should be more childcare for those disadvantaged families, not those just in work, making reading fluency at primary school a national priority for white working class children, and a major expansion of apprenticeships so that all young people, this report says, can access a high quality local apprenticeship to them. And that certainly is a feeling in places like this, that when people leave school, they don't want want to go to university. They want to get on and earning that money and building themselves up that job ladder. Of course, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, says that these generations have been robbed of opportunity, saying that communities in this report are my communities, and I know what they've given this country, and this current country, she says, has failed them back. But here in Galthorpe, as you can see around us, people don't feel like there's a lot of opportunity here. Local investment from the council hasn't done anything to create that opportunity, and so people here are telling us the problem people need to look bigger, and ultimately the government needs to do something to give people in areas like this a chance when they step onto that work ladder.
Thanks, Jack.
Very interesting. Of course, what I want to know is how much they've done about looking into the home backgrounds of these children, because, of course, children only spend 6 hours of school a day. The rest of the time they're at home. And we know that, particularly for white working class families, much higher incidence of family breakdown, for example.
Is there a dad at home?
That hugely impacts school attainment.
Really does. Now, up next, this is a heartwarming story, actually. 2 RAF veterans who served together over 20 years ago completed a bike ride between Kent and Belgium for charity over the weekend. They join us shortly, and they've done very well.
The Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
You've been to see Glengarry Glen Ross.
I have. So the movie was 92 and the play was 84, 85, something like David Mamet. It's all about men, or it's about men that are posturing being men. It's this idea of sort of toxic strutting, peacocking. However, the outrage, this most male of plays, has been cast with all women. Horrific. Taking away men's jobs right in front of us, Michael. It's on at the Old Vic, and we've got a cast of the ladies having a little word about it.
I think it might explode the play and open it up in really amazing ways, but we just don't know, and that is thrilling.
On first glance, you look at Glengarry and you think male, masculine world, male toxicity, but then if you strip that away and look at it from another lens, you say, no, this is about humans.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Joining me now is Chef Julia Walsh, who's the head of patisserie at Le Cordon Bleu. Thank you. How lovely to see you. You look marvellous in your chef's hat and your chef's jacket. Tell me about Le Cordon Bleu.
Le Cordon Bleu has been in operation for over 130 years. We had our 130-year anniversary last year. I'm from the campus in London, in Holborn, and we have a very wide-ranging curriculum with our students. I teach patisserie, so for me, I teach students to learn about things such as bakery, cakes, entremets, such as this one here, and showpieces. We do chocolate and sugar sculptures as well.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
3 lines on my shirt, never stop me dreaming.
Could this be England's biggest superfan? Benny Elcock has covered his York home in St George's flags in support of England ahead of the World Cup. 3 Lions memorabilia are draped across his windows, garden gates and flower pots. Even the family's Yorkshire Terrier Reggie has his own outfit.
We've done it for years. And always stick me Everton one up, because I'm a massive Everton fan. People just think I'm mad. Say, well, you've gone a bit mad, you've gone a bit overboard. I said, I don't care. I love it.
Football mad Benny can't wait for England's first match.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. It's 10 to 11. Now, a charity cycle ride from Kent to the Menengate in Belgium has raised almost £100,000.
Now, every penny raised by the Tommy Writer EAP will support the Royal British Veterans Enterprise, which helps veterans rebuild their lives through jobs, homes and their community.
Now,
really important.
Exactly. On Friday, Andrew, we had these two gentlemen on, Richard and James, as they just started their ride in Kent. They zoomed to us from their mobile phone as they were setting off. Of course, huge heat there.
Oh,
so it's brilliant to speak to them. And we're going to speak to them again now. They are RAF veterans Richard Rawnsley and James Jimmy Butterworth. Chaps, you're looking slightly less hot and bothered than when we spoke to you on Friday. Tell us about the ride. Were you successful? Did you make it to Belgium?
And are you sore?
We did indeed, yeah. We bought, the entire team made it, 32 riders,
32 of us.
Yeah.
32 of you?
150 miles.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And how many miles was that?
150 miles.
Around about 150, so about 200k.
Yeah.
Kilometres,
right.
Yeah.
35 degrees, and we had torrential rain as well.
Oh my goodness.
How did you cope with that heat?
Torrential rain.
Don't forget the lightning as well.
Oh yeah, the lightning.
Yeah.
What was worse, the heat or the intense heat, guys, or the torrential rain?
I'm going to go, for me, the heat was difficult day one. Yeah. Because once you've got your breathing, you're into it, you're all right. Day two, although we had torrential rain, you're on your last leg, so you kind of can see the finishing post. So, yeah.
It was actually quite nice to get a bit of rain.
Yeah.
But it was torrential. It was torrential. And obviously there's the hazards on the roads and that. But the views are just absolutely amazing.
Yes.
All the countryside and everything. And the way the guided tour was, where they've taken us, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
To finish at Menning Gate, we all came in riding as a group. It was organised, so we all came in, 32 of us, and it's so emotional.
Yeah,
and of course,
we had a battlefield historian with us as well, who was very helpful. So we went through Tyncott, Menning Gate, a couple of other points of interest. So, but like I say, it's poignant when you get to these cemeteries and memorials, when you find out what's happened there. And on a personal basis, I found an old distant relative on one of the walls there, so quite emotional.
Yeah, of course.
And I supported Jim at the time because I could see emotion in his eyes. It's a member of his family.
It's also so emotional when you see how young those men were. Some of them just 18, 17.
He was 19-year-old. So
19.
I'm 54. I know I don't look it, but you're 2-3 times their age, aren't you?
And we've only got about a minute left, gents. But just remind us of your story. You two served together, didn't you?
Yeah, we were both on the 10 Squadron. Jimmy was my NCO, he was my corporal, and it's quite a difficult time in my life. I just returned to the squadron after having heart surgery, and it was a really difficult time. It's what the RVV stands for. They look after veterans. They're probably in a similar situation to myself, and they helped us tremendously.
Can I?
We did want to say a few points while we were online, actually, which is really important with the RVV.
You've got 30 seconds.
So 30 seconds. If you look at the banner behind, please do a search on that. Search for Tommy Ride.
Yeah.
We're aiming to get over £100,000 for this ride, which is very important. We're nearly there. If we can tip that scale,
nearly at 100,000.
That would be fantastic.
32 riders.
Houses up to 300 people, families and service veterans. There's a new development in the off, which opens hopefully next year. That's a further 100 houses.
The 70% of the staff here are veterans, so they make employment for people. With disabilities.
Guys, I'm so sorry we are going to have to stop you there.
And we'll put your website up and show people, if they can raise money, how to do it to
We can
support
do it.
you.
Thank you very much.
So
Appreciate
thank you
your
so
time.
much,
Thank
boys,
you.
and very well done.
Richard, James, thank you. Much more to
Thank you
come.
very
Here's your
much.
weather.
Cheers.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry weather today, feeling warm, certainly not quite as humid as it did last week, and there will be some showers on the cards. These mostly in the northwest, particularly across western areas of Scotland, though any showers should become quite well scattered by the afternoon, so hopefully some bright, if not sunny spells in between. But you can see across the bulk of the country it should be mostly dry, a mix of cloud and also some brighter spells. Mostly light winds as well, so where we do see any sunshine it should feel rather warm and pleasant, highs reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius, but like I said, not quite as humid as the last few days. Now, to finish off the day across Scotland, there'll still be quite a decent amount of cloud around, still some lingering showers across the south, perhaps the best of the brightness across the very far north of Scotland. But notice behind me there is some rain on its way, some heavy, if not thundery showers initially across Northern Ireland, pushing their way northeastwards. But actually elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be quite a dry end to the day, plenty of clear skies. Gradually turning more and more unsettled through the overnight period, however. These heavy showers will continue to push their way northeastwards before longer spells of rain start to push into parts of the northwest. Now this could be rather heavy at times, if not quite thundery, some quite blustery winds as well. Even to the south where we don't see any rain, there's going to be quite a lot of cloud around and potentially some showers. Still quite a mild night, temperatures not dropping much below 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But Tuesday itself does look like a rather unsettled day. Spells of rain continuing in the northwest, still heavy and thundery at times. Then we do have this band of heavy showers eventually pushing into northwest England, Wales and parts of the southwest as well. These too could also be heavy with the odd rumble of thunder. The best of the brightness will be across central and southeast England. This is where we'll see the highest of the temperatures as well, highs reaching between 23 to 24 degrees Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
And it's 11 o'clock on Monday, the 29th of July, live across the United Kingdom. June. Sorry about that. Just jumped ahead. Summer's going so quickly.
Don't panic.
Live across the United Kingdom, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Capes.
Well, some breaking news this morning. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch warns that we're headed for a summer of chaos with Andy Burnham.
Britain is facing a summer of chaos. Investment decisions across the country will be put on hold every time the newspapers are briefed about new tax rises. The markets will react.
Well, Badenoch also hit out at devolution, claiming that mayors won't have the power to change the law.
He doesn't have a plan beyond telling mayors to go and sort it out. This is not good enough. There is a country to govern.
She says Burnham should adopt her 5-point plan, which will get the economy going.
Our Conservative plan is to do 5 things to fix our economy. 5 things that will help every single person in this country. If Andy Burnham wants to avoid a summer of chaos, he shouldn't start by announcing our 5 policies himself. 1, cut the cost of energy. 2, get people working, cut the welfare bill, scrap the Employment Rights Act. 3, cut taxes. 4, slash burdensome regulation. And 5, champion business, not more politicians.
Elsewhere, the government is considering a public judges plan. Members of the public will be trained to decide asylum appeals instead of immigration judges, supposedly to speed up the process.
And Burnham's plan for power. The next Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, will set out his plan to revive the economy, and it's going to be a lot about devolution, as you would expect from the former Mayor of Greater Manchester. That speech is coming up this morning. Stay tuned.
This now is the change moment. We have an opportunity to turn the tide, to make the country feel like it's working again.
And are we going to have drones over destroyers? Britain moves to drone-equipped warships as ministers scrap ageing fleet plans in a major defence reset.
Wimbledon's back, the 139th Grand Slam. Britain's Emma Raducanu's pulled out. Oh, has she? And the queues to get in are huge.
Yes, get your strawberries and Pims at the ready because Wimbledon is back. The famous tennis tournament is just getting underway. Join us for all the excitement and the drama from the famous Wimbledon queue.
Wimbledon underway.
Wimbledon, actually. It's, tennis is one of the few sports I have any interest in and understand. I've been to Wimbledon a few times, and I did see Alcaraz playing, who's now number 1 or number 2. But the one I never saw play was Federer, who I thought was a god.
Oh, yeah, well, one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
Strawberries and cream quite expensive though, there, aren't they? Yeah, 8 or 9 pounds there for a few strawberries.
But the great thing about it is, you just wander around and you can be next to a really famous tennis player. The security's through. There was I chatting to Virginia Wade, one of my all-time heroes, when she won Wimbledon in 1977, which happened to be the Queen's Silver Jubilee, and who happened to be giving the prize to the women's prize that year. Her Majesty the Queen.
Wow.
Amazing. And Virginia Wade won it that year.
Vintage year.
First woman to have won it for years and years and years.
Well, we're not going to have a British woman winning this year, are we? Sadly, because Emma Raducanu has pulled out.
Right.
Yes, she offered so much promise, didn't she? But unfortunately, doesn't seem to have gone anywhere.
Hasn't really lived up to it, has she?
Sadly not. Well, let us know what you think. Are we living up to Britain's newsroom expectations? No, don't answer that one. Send your views and comments to
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Bethany Elsey.
Thank you both. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom at 4 minutes past 11. Andy Burnham will promise the greatest transfer of power from Westminster in modern times as part of a 10-year plan to raise living standards across the UK. The new Labour MP for Makerfield's first major speech as Labour leader hopeful will focus on devolution and the economy. One of his flagship proposals is branded a number 10 North, which involves breaking off parts of Whitehall and moving them to to Manchester. If no other candidate emerges, he could be the new Prime Minister in a matter of weeks. But Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has warned Britain is facing a summer of chaos, accusing Mr Burnham of having no real plan.
He doesn't have a plan beyond telling mayors to go and sort it out. This is not good enough. There is a country to govern. Devolved mayors are not going to fund the Defence Investment Plan. He needs to come to Parliament, tell us what he wants to do, and face some questions from MPs, the people elected to hold the government to account. Giving speeches in Manchester and not taking any questions is simply not good enough.
Children's mental health services in England are in crisis, with more than 1 million young people affected in a single year. Around 1 in 10 children are either referred for, waiting for, or receiving treatment, with demand almost doubling since 2018. The Children's Commissioner's Office says data shows the top reason for referrals is anxiety. Dame Rachel D'Souza says intervention needs to happen far sooner.
When I speak to children, they're talking to me about worries about money, worries about getting a job when they're 9 or 10 years old. They're spending hours of their days on social media apps. The way we're bringing our children up really needs a good think. We need to support them far better. And when they do show signs of worries, of anxiety, dealing with it early.
Meanwhile, an independent inquiry has found the education system has failed white working-class pupils in England. The year-long inquiry says they remain the lowest performing major group in schools and calls for a once-in-a-generation reforms. Co-chair Baroness Estelle Morris says the issues can't be explained away by low aspiration or lack of effort, and that schools can't solve the issue alone. The Royal Navy is ditching plans for a new generation of destroyers in favour of drone command ships under the government's biggest defence shake-up in years. At least 6 new common combat vessels will work alongside crewed warships and autonomous systems, with ministers saying they'll strengthen Britain's response to growing Russian threats in the Atlantic. The Defence Investment Plan, which is due to be published within the next coming days, comes with an extra £14.5 billion in funding, but critics say that's not enough. The number of people killed in the twin earthquakes which hit Venezuela last week has almost reached 1,500. 33 people were rescued over the weekend, including several children, but tens of thousands still remain unaccounted for. International rescue teams are continuing to arrive at La Guaira to bolster efforts to free people from the rubble. Millions of households across the UK face higher energy bills from Wednesday, with the average annual bill increasing by more than £200. Ofgem's latest price cap means a typical customer will pay more than £1,800 a year. Analysts expect prices to remain steady in October, though, easing fears of a further increase before winter. The Princess of Wales has completed the 3 Peaks Challenge to raise money for a cancer charity.
Lots of people have asked me why I'm doing this challenge, and partly it's personal. I'm so grateful to be here, to be strong enough to walk these hills. But more importantly, it's to give something back.
Catherine has become the first royal to climb the highest mountains in Scotland, England and Wales within 24 hours. She says the challenge will support the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity, which increases access and understanding of holistic care. And Emma Raducanu was pulled out of Wimbledon, which kicks off today, due to an injury. She was seeded 30th and was set to play against Croatia's Antonija Rusic on court 1 today. The 23-year-old has a stress fracture in her lower right leg and says she's been medically advised to withdraw. You're up to date for now. I'll be back with more in half an hour.
Going through the ceiling, finding the floor. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
First, though, let's have a look at the markets. The pound will buy you $1.32 and 1.16 euros. The price of gold is £3,060 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 10,488 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
I imagine lots of people can get in touch to say lots of things.
They have. Lots of comments on Kemi Badenoch's speech, which of course we heard in the last 45 minutes or so. Lynn, a mixed reaction. Diverse set of views amongst our viewers. Lynn says Kemi has worked out what she needs to do. She doesn't spend all her time thinking about vengeance for the opposition. She appears to have her party under her control and plenty of ideas for this country's future. However, George says Badenoch is lying again. She's stealing Reform's policies. The only party that will drill for oil is Reform UK.
Well, hang on. That's how they won the Aberdeen by-election a week or two ago, because the whole campaign in Aberdeen South was drill, baby, drill. We are the party which will drill. Reform came round to the Tory way of thinking.
Well, I think they would argue that it was the opposite, that they said we should scrap net zero and now the Tories do. But that's interesting, though, because John says, which I think is a good summation of the climate that we're in, we seem to have had more politicians making more statements about how they're going to fix the country in the last 6 months than the whole of the previous administration. I think that's exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of competition now in politics, which is probably a good thing.
And the point about net zero is it was Theresa May, Conservative, brackets alleged, close brackets, who signed us in legally to net zero without a vote in the Commons.
That's right. That's absolutely. And of course,
shocking that was allowed to happen.
Yeah, and the Climate Change Act in the dying days of the new Labour administration as well has locked us in to all this net zero madness. But at least the right is fairly united now on this, that we should roll it back.
We've got to roll it back, and we understand there may be some movement there with Burnham. It would be one of the big tests, because he would have saw what happened in Scotland, where Labour were a woeful third or fourth in that by-election. It was the Tories, then SNP, because even they'd come around to drilling in the North Sea. Of course you drill in the North Sea. It's there under our feet, and it's a revenue raiser, a revenue earner for the country.
Madness not to.
And we've just heard from Badenoch in her speech that the debt we're paying, the money we're paying to service our national debt is more than we spend every year on defence. And more than the country of Greece, which we used to mock.
That's right. Well, I think the last week has made the case for air conditioning across the country, hasn't it? So hopefully we'll be going down that route in the future. Well, on to our main story today, and the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is going to introduce a new sponsorship scheme offering safe and legal routes for migrants in an effort to deter small boat arrivals.
She's also announced plans for members of the public to be trained to decide asylum appeals instead of, or maybe as well as, immigration judges. She says to speed up the outcomes. Well, Tom Jones is the deputy online editor of one of our favourite magazines, The Critic, and he joins us now. Tom, morning. We're not quite sure of the detail, if it is in addition to the judges or whatever, but we are effectively establishing a citizens' jury to decide. For most people I stopped in the street, said, do you want to stop the small boats? They'd say, yeah, the lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is part of, as you said, the new immigration and asylum bill, and it looks like it's actually going to replace the judge level. So there is 2 tiers to the current immigration tribunal. That will just become one system. It will be the new, snazzily titled Independent Immigration Appeals Authority. Under that system, illegal migrants will only get one chance to appeal, which obviously is an improvement. I think most people would say. The press release has said that the authority will be made of hundreds of recruited citizens from diverse backgrounds, which I think is quite a telling phrase there. But really what this is about the record number of asylum cases that are currently backlogged. We've got over 85,000 now. It's an all-time high. And basically there aren't enough immigration judges to get through this. So the government is simply putting it into the hands of non-legally trained citizens.
How do you think that's going to work, Tom?
So they have basically said that the training system will be broadly similar to the system that magistrates go through. There will be apparently a rigorous selection procedure, but I don't think this will be well received when the detail of it gets out, because fundamentally we are asking citizens with no legal training to make decisions that are, as we have seen in recent months, of incredible importance to public safety. And I simply don't think that it will be received well at all.
Another plank of the reforms is the new refugee sponsorship scheme that Mahmoud is set to announce, whereby community groups, organisations will be able to sponsor refugees to come across from other countries in the world, perhaps fleeing persecution and war, support them for a year, but then enable these people to live in Britain. Now, I understand Shabana Mahmood is trying to signal to those on the left of her party that she's not all stick and no carrot. But this is quite a dangerous proposal, isn't it? Because you can see left-leaning charities who have been campaigning for more asylum seekers for an awful lot of time, communities of people who've already settled here over previous years, using this as a way to bring in hundreds, perhaps thousands of new refugees from exactly the kind of countries that are coming across currently on small boats.
Yes, I agree completely. I find it baffling, frankly, that Labour, having basically stuck to Robert Jenrick's immigration reforms that the Conservatives stuck to, have got numbers back down to broadly 2010 levels, still too high for the public, but they've got them down, and are now once again opening the floodgates to mass chain migration that doesn't even really have an economic case to benefit Britain. As you say, this will be a massive enabler of chain migration, particularly to communities that are already here. I think we will see, a lot of extended families brought over on this scheme. It's broadly similar to one that was brought in Canada, which has seen a huge immigration surge. And as you say, I think this is more about offering a carrot out to the left of the party to get the body of the immigration reforms through.
Well, Tom Jones, Deputy Online Editor of The Critic, thank you so much for joining us on Britain's Newsroom.
She's just a disappointment. I really thought the Home Secretary was genuinely hard line on this. She's been got at, has she, by her backbenchers?
Unless she seriously believes that this is only going to bring over a few people, that it will solve the small boats crisis. But I just don't understand why that would work, because if the argument is that genuine refugees will come through this route, well, then there'll be even more space on the small boats for people who aren't genuine. Right. So how on earth is this going to help? I don't understand.
No. What we want are more people processing the applications so we can get them in and get them out.
Absolutely. Well,
they all cross illegally.
Well, the only answer really is to detain people as soon as they land on the shore and then deport them in quick fashion. But we're not able to do that under the ECHR.
No, while we're in it.
Well, the Home Secretary has said today our appeals tribunal is overwhelmed. As a result, people are gaming the system and lodging vexatious appeals to frustrate their removal. Our new appeals body will ensure claims are heard swiftly and fairly. Those with a legitimate claim will get their hearing. Those who have no right to remain in this country and are abusing the system will be swiftly removed.
And there's one word in there I take exception with, our new system. It won't come into force till the end of next year.
She may not be Home Secretary.
She may not be Home Secretary, so that's another 18 months of wringing their hands while nothing happens.
Indeed.
Hopeless.
There is a sense of stasis, isn't there, in the system? Well, elsewhere where things are moving probably far more rapidly is Wimbledon, which gets underway today. The biggest names in tennis beginning their bid for the title. Sadly not Emma Raducanu, who has pulled out due to a stress fracture in her lower right leg.
Well, let's talk to GB News reporter Sophia Wednesday, who's there. Sophia, there have been a lot of English hopes resting on Emma Raducanu. She won that Grand Slam when she was 21. She's never even vaguely lived up to those expectations, but she's had to pull out now altogether.
Yes, that is the big news, of course, this morning, that Emma Raducanu has had to drop out of Wimbledon because of a stress fracture to her lower right shin. Now, she had initially said that she was going to play through the pain, but from the her Instagram post last night, it was said that she is now having to drop out because of the medics have now advised her to do so. But it's not dampening the spirits here. As you can see behind me, the famous Wimbledon queue is already stretching across the park with thousands of people hoping to walk through those gates today. And of course, everyone is hoping to catch a glimpse of some of the biggest names in the world of tennis. Day one of Wimbledon, of course, always carries a special sense of anticipation because nobody quite knows what is going to unfold here over the next fortnight. We have been speaking to some of the most dedicated tennis fans in the queue to get their thoughts.
4:30. Yeah, we got up at 3:45.
Wow. Okay, that's a long old time. So, what are your tips for making it through till now?
lots of water, lots of snack, and lots of prosecco.
So we got here about 4:20, and I've got no idea what the time is now, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, I think it's 9:30, so that is very good going. And how have you been keeping yourself going and awake since then?
2 coffees, little makeup break.
Well, we left our hotel at 4 a.m. and he brought us straight here, which was fabulous. So we've been in line since 4:30.
Yeah, so we arrived about 6:20, and initially we didn't have a car because we were told we didn't need one, and then 45 minutes we were told you do need one. So we just basically parked our tent, left it. It sounds not organised, but it's really, really organised. So now they're just getting everyone into the numerical order. So I've just got a bit of exercise and bought my tent, and we're in our home now for the next 24 hours.
Well, you've heard it there. Wimbledon 2026 is well and truly underway. The crowds are now moving and the first tennis tournament has just got underway. So the excitement here is palpable. The atmosphere is electric and we will be here all day bringing you the latest as the day unfolds.
Have a glass of Prosecco on us, won't you?
Yeah. But not some strawberries. We can't stretch to that.
Oh, I will do.
Enjoy. I've covered the tournament actually as a journalist. It's great fun. And you go into these extraordinary press conferences as a news reporter. You're not interested in the third rally and the third set. You want to ask... I remember once it was Andre Agassi. You remember him?
Yes.
Very famous. In fact, he married Steffi Graf.
He did in the end.
We noticed when he took his shirt off during one of the matches, he'd shaved his chest. And he was like an ape-man before, shaved his chest. So he was pretty shocked, expecting him to be asked a question. And the man from the Sun said, "So, did you shave your chest yourself, Andre, or did you get someone to do it?" He said, "Is that a serious question?" The press conference descended into absolute chaos because everybody asked the question. And the next day, pictures everywhere. Front page of the Times.
No
Even
way.
the FT covered it.
So he was expecting a technical question about the third serve and the second game of the fourth set or something.
Oh, no, and of course they went through the motions, but they were just gagging to ask the question about. Yeah, well, it's very funny.
I'm sure he would have known the reaction when he did it.
He was a very charming man, actually. Very charming.
Well, it's time now for our brand new Great British giveaway. Your chance to join in with our Golden Summer celebration and a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar worth over £5,000.
Wow, that's something you should keep and put away in the safe because that will go up and up in value.
Yes, that's true. Here are all the details you need.
Or would you give it away, Miriam?
No.
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like this year. What would you do with that? And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. It's pure gold to own, trade or gift to a loved one and secure their financial future. So make sure you don't miss your chance to bank over £65,000 worth of prizes in our Golden Summer celebration. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, up next, Prince Harry reconsiders bringing his family to the UK, and it's all over their taxpayer-funded police protection being denied. I think they're worried about you, Andrew.
His wife. Why don't you bring that wife?
He is from here, Andrew. He's a British citizen.
But do you think he's going to leave his wife at home? Because I think most people would be happy if he did.
Oh, what are you going to write about in the Daily Mail then?
Oh, we'll find something, don't you worry.
Well, we'll be going through that and more with Judita De Silva and Thomas Day. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, we've got some very sad breaking news to share with you. Penelope Keith, Dame Penelope Keith, you will remember her from The Good Life. She was Marjorie, and To the Manor Born, has died at the age of 86. She died peacefully. She'd been suffering from cancer at her home in Surrey. We'll bring you more on that a little later. I'm very sad because I love both of those sitcoms. They were 70s and 80s, and she's been around forever. And she was a big noise in the actors' world. It's sort of like Equity. She was a great, great figure. You wouldn't get on the wrong side of her.
Yes, she did look a little bit feisty. Well, very sad news. It's absolute English rose, gem of the acting.
Really, so we'll bring you more on that when we can. Now, we've got the studio panel with us, Gita De Silva and former Conservative advisor Thomas Day. So the latest on Harry and Meghan, honestly, they're meant to be coming to promote his Invictus charity, which we all think is a marvellous thing, Judita. It helps servicemen and women literally with broken bodies. He's done it internationally for years. It's a great success. And she wanted to bring her children so they could see some of what Daddy does. Now seems there's a problem over the fact that Harry says the state, the government, won't provide what he regards as enough security.
This is a tough one because it's almost like the decision to just raise them in America has brought some degree of peace for the family, particularly for Meghan. It's given them just peace and quiet to an extent, at least the extent that she can have with the bile of social media. But this is something that, looking at them as a family, everyone should be able to empathise with. He's built something, as you said, remarkable. When you look at how Charlotte and Louis have grown up from very young ages, you're shown what it is to be in the family you are in. His children deserve the same thing. So at least be willing to bend a little for this. We understand the debate about him and Meghan, fine, but he's trying to give his children the same thing any parent would want to give their children. At least bend just for this. I think they should.
I mean, that is a fair point, isn't it, Thomas? These children have been completely cut off from their family. They don't know their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, their cousins.
On either side, it has to be said.
On either side.
But who facilitated the cut? Yeah. I seem to recall that they stood away, not the other way around.
And they don't see Meghan's grandfather either.
Exactly. So, you know, they wanted a life of privacy. They wanted a life away from the state. And then they show up and go, well, we want the state to protect us now. Well, I think they're probably wealthy enough from that Netflix documentary and many media appearances they get paid for. They can pay for their own security, quite frankly.
No, but
well, apparently the state here won't let them bring their own. They certainly couldn't bring their own armed protection. But the system at the moment is if they come here and they're doing anything royal, they get the same level of protection. But if they're coming as private citizens, which is what they are now, they get something much less. And Harry's decided that's not enough because he's convinced paparazzi photographers are going to pursue him and his children, and I think he's completely wrong about that.
Yeah, I think where he'll be staying will be very well protected.
Will it be a royal residence?
It'll be a royal residence, so no problems there. If he's going up to see Diana's grave at the Spencer Estate in Northampton, it is massive. It is a 600-year-old estate, and the grave itself is on a private island on that estate. So I don't think there's much worry about there being any security risk there, probably. So it'll only be in transit and elsewhere. And again, quite frankly, can you not rise to the cost of paying for security that's based in the UK? Do you need armed guards?
If singers need armed security, Harry needs armed security, and the fact that it's not like America where you can have a private armed detail.
Well, he can pay for it himself then.
No, but the restrictions on what he can provide for himself is why he's saying
the law
get it officially
bringing armed.
What I don't understand is why doesn't Harry just arrive privately, do what he has to do, and leave when in fact nobody...
He didn't have to tell anyone.
...noticed, because there are so many private airports he could go to, cars could be made available for him. He can come and go without anybody knowing. I think he loves this big fuss and row, Judita.
I'm in two minds. I do think that part of it is the currency of who he is in life is public. So there is a sense of you've got to feed into what feeds your family. You're a public figure. But at the other time, look at what we do for a living. Harry and Meghan move the needle, they gain traction. And as journalists, we cover what gets people's attention, they get people's attention. And with social media, everyone has a phone. Harry cannot walk in a straight line and say, if I go super covertly, no one will notice. Everyone has a mobile phone, and therefore everyone has access to expose what you are doing. Just because there is a resentment towards him personally, do not fail to be pragmatic enough and objective enough to recognise that there are certain realities to Harry's life that make his requests tangible and sensible and not frivolous.
Shall we move on to a different story? An interesting piece in the Daily Mail saying that lawyers who back Labour are calling for the criminality age to increase to 14. Currently, the age of criminal responsibility is 10, so that would be 4 years older than now. What are your thoughts on that, Thomas?
I think on paper it sounds why not, but I don't really see what needle they're trying to move. What's the objective they're trying to go for? Has there been a miscarriage of justice where a child that committed a crime that would be worthy of trialling them in that way meant that it was a miscarriage of justice? So I just don't really see what it is they're trying to do, and why the law needs changing. Maybe there's an argument around puberty where you've now entered more of a grown-up stage and that innocence of youth is now gone. But again, I don't really see why the government wants to change something like this at a time.
And Judith, in Sweden, they have a much higher age of criminality, and that has been abused by gangs, for example, because they know they can use children to traffic drugs because they won't be arrested and charged.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of trying to... It's the social and pastoral approach aside from the actual practical one, because at the end of the day, when you're criminalising a 10-year-old, you've marred their ability to develop naturally. For a child to commit a heinous crime, something is very fundamentally wrong. Yes, it's a crime, but something's fundamentally wrong. To then put them into a system that doesn't give them the latitude to course correct, you're creating a lifelong problem. That is thing, but two things can be true at the same time, like you said. People will deliberately target young people because they're saying that according to this policy, you won't get prosecuted, you won't go to court, you won't be charged with anything. So that's a void of availability to criminals to funnel their nefarious acts through this operational group that is kind of coasting above the law. So what do you do in the middle? Either you're going to now have social catchment policies that when you see at-risk use, that from an entry-level transgression, start helping them, provide funding to help them.
Just looking back to probably the most infamous child murderers, killers, the Bolger killers. Do you remember back in 1993, John Venables, Robert Thompson, they were 10 years old when they abducted and murdered the toddler in 1993. They were 11-year-olds by the time their trials concluded. I think they did 20 years. Were they criminals?
Yes. Yeah, undoubtedly so.
I think how would they be affected then if this law changes to 14?
Yes, and I think that's what the government will need to answer on this, because that will sit very freshly in the mind of many people.
It was such a notorious case.
Exactly, and I think rehabilitation and people that fall into gang crime and so on. I think there's perhaps a case there on the rehabilitation point. But cynically, seeing as the government's struggling with lots of legal backlogs, it kind of feels like a convenient way to perhaps, clear the backlog on a couple of inconvenient cases that aren't as big profile. This will just help, reduce the numbers just slightly.
You can just imagine Bulger's mother and father,
horrified,
who speak out quite often, what they'd say to this.
I think that it has to be a sliding scale because there is merit to it. A case like that, there's no debate. Where you have young people that essentially rape and murder girls because they've been fed information where they don't actually know what they're doing, but there is a titillation to doing it, which comes from computer games and so on.
On that point, we're going to come back to you. We're going to cross live to Andy Burnham, who's speaking in Manchester, setting out his plan to fix Britain, although he's still not Prime Minister just yet.
Thanks very much, everyone. Wow, what a welcome. Good morning, everybody. Are you ready for this? I'm sounding like I used to sound when I used to DJ across this great city, and I'm probably doing that because I'm missing it so much. I'm missing all of you. I am missing all of you, missing this place, the people. You were just brilliant to me in my 9 years as mayor. I could not have asked for better backing. You were there at my back all the way through, and I will never forget what this place did for me. It's been such a wrench to leave that I've had to get special permission from what people in Westminster call my Manchester clothes. I've had to get special permission to wear them this morning. Sorry, Kemi, about that. However, I have bowed to public pressure on one front. I have bought some new running shorts. It was either do that or change the decency laws, and I opted for the former. But I can't tell you how glad it makes me that we meet at this big moment in one of my favourite places on earth, the People's History Museum. It holds real significance for me, and it's not just because one of my old coats is in a glass case upstairs, and can you believe it, comes off second best alongside Michael Foot's infamous donkey jacket. It's because these galleries tell the story of our country better than anywhere else. How through time it has not been run in the interests of the many, and how ordinary people have fought to change that status quo and make it fairer. Today, we must take inspiration from that history and get ready to repeat it. The time has come to build the broadest possible coalition of people to lift Britain back up to where we all want it to be. What hope can we have that it will be different this time? That's the question I would be asking if I was a voter right now. It's the one I want to answer as clearly as I can today, and in doing so, give the new direction the country is looking for. After 10 years of political turbulence since Brexit, and 20 years of falling living standards since the 2008 financial crash, Westminster hasn't been working for people, and it hasn't been working for a very long time. In fact, it is broken. And as a result, the country isn't where it should be. It is stuck in a rut, and clearly we can't go on like this. My generation of politicians, including me, must take responsibility. We haven't been good enough. But instead of being honest about that, the parties have continued with politics as usual, finger-pointing, point-scoring. Now, that might matter less in a world where people's lives are getting better, but when they are not, it is dangerous and destructive of what remains of public trust in politics. We cannot go through another decade like the one we have just had. We need a new determination to raise living standards of every single person in this land. And we must accept that, to do that, to fix the economy and the country, we need to change politics, and we need to do it now. So let me state my clear intention as I put myself forward. True to the motto of this city, I am going to do things differently. I am going to break with the more of the same approach that has got us here. I am going to give Britain the circuit breaker it needs. By building a more collaborative politics in Westminster, by taking power out of the centre and putting it in the hands of the people and places who can use it best. And in so doing, creating a new sense of agency, possibility and hope flowing around the country. We will make politics work for you and the place where you live. I know it can be done because we have done it here. When I started as mayor in 2017, we set about building a new approach, a new politics based on the exact opposite of the Westminster approach. Place first, not party first. Problem solving, not point scoring. Long term, not short term. A decade on, it's incredible how much we've been able to achieve by working together instead of fighting against one another. The Greater Manchester Way is based on strong partnership between all sectors, public, private, community, voluntary, academic, faith, and our trade unions. We ask everyone to face the same way and then pull in that same direction together. Let me give you an example. When we realised the last Conservative government had done something significant by introducing 45-day work placements for young people linked to T-levels, we set ourselves the mission of finding one for every young person who wanted one. Over the course of last year, we rang round our businesses in the city region and with the help of hundreds of companies delivered our goal of 1,000 extra work placements. That's 1,000 extra young lives changed every year, and it shows what a place can do when it works as one. For Britain to get back where it should be, those same principles need to be applied now to how we run the country, pull in the same direction, move forward together. But let's not kid ourselves, this is not as easy as it sounds. Westminster and Whitehall are set up for conflict, and they require radical change if the country is to get back on track. I left Westminster a decade ago with the Mayor of the Liverpool City region, Steve Rotherham, because we could see it simply wasn't working for the northwest of England and the people here, and indeed other parts of Britain, the same thing. The Parliament I returned to on Monday is full of good people, many of them here in the audience today, members of Parliament who've joined us. And they are working hard every day, trying to do the right thing for the places that they represent. But it's hard, it's too hard for them to make change. Why? Because power is not in the hands of those places that they represent, but held by an insufficiently accountable, outsourced state. We are one of the most over-centralised countries in the world. And worse, that over-centralised heart of the country is not pulling in the same way, but in different directions. That is the reality of Westminster now, both within our parties and between them, and between the departments of Whitehall. I'll be honest, I was worried about what I found on my return last week. It is a more fragmented, disjointed place than the one I left, and frankly, unhappier. I will work hard to change that culture, leading from the front and showing how things can be different. Letting MPs be authentic representatives and not using the whip system to create fear or close down debate. Involving more people in the work of the government and drawing on the breadth and depth of talent and expertise our party has to offer. While the political direction I set is not up for negotiation, I will build an inclusive team at the very highest level so that all parts of the party and the country can see themselves reflected and represented in it. And may I say, I will not announce those decisions on appointments. Certainly not today, and indeed not until the end of this process. So until then, feel free to discount the wild speculation in circulation. Message for the back of the room there. Good morning, Mr. Mason. I will reach out to other political parties to find as much common ground as we can and build that more collaborative approach I spoke about a moment ago. So, a greater sense of unity in Parliament will then allow us to give a clearer sense of direction to Whitehall. I was struck by recent comments from ministers expressing their deep frustration at the Whitehall turf wars. Like Parliament, the civil service is full of good people trying to do the right thing, but they are held back by the structure and culture in which they have to work. It is too adversarial, and too much time is wasted with departmental silos battling each other and battling the Treasury rather than getting things done. How can the country pull in the same direction when that is the reality at the very top? And as mayors, I'm sure I speak for the front row here, as mayors we have felt similar frustration over the years when those same departments constantly push back against our legitimate requests to improve our places by devolving a fraction of the power and resources they hold. The truth is this: the country spends too much time arguing and not enough time doing. I'm not sure this Whitehall culture could ever be justified. It wasn't justified when I was a minister almost 20 years ago, but it certainly can't be justified now. The stark imbalance in resources between national government and local government is holding back growth. If councils can't fix potholes, what chance do they have of bringing forward major regeneration schemes to get growth going? While national government has got bigger, particularly since the pandemic, local government is threadbare and without the resources to fulfil even statutory responsibilities. This is not just bad for councils and the areas they serve, it is bad for everywhere. It is bad for London and the South East. The whole country suffers when the regions and nations are not meeting their potential, and Londoners are left with an overheated economy and an overcrowded housing market. It is actually bad for national government too, because we will never get the growth up to the level Britain needs unless every single postcode in the land is set up to contribute to it. This country hasn't thought in that way before, but with the Makerfield test at the heart of decision making, it will do from now on. To make it happen, we will bring about the biggest rebalancing of power our country has seen. It is time for Whitehall to accept that growth cannot be ordered from the top down. Instead, it can only be nurtured from the bottom up. It comes from having the power at ground level to make a real difference, from a clear shared vision that everyone can understand and investors can back. It comes from running sound finances, as we have done here in Greater Manchester, which in turn gives businesses the stability and the confidence to invest, increasing their productivity and adoption of new technology. It comes from placing our universities at the heart of local economies, as all the mayors do, and bringing the innovation-led approach through start-ups and scale-ups. It comes from committing to decent infrastructure in all parts of the UK and getting national investors to back the aspirations set by regions. It comes from giving people the security of a good home and good employment so that they can be as productive as possible, from good mobility and an ability to afford the basics. And it comes from not leaving everything to the market, but public intervention where necessary, to set higher ambitions for towns, as we did in Stockport, and kickstart the process of change. This is Manchesterism. I think I even saw the Mayor of Liverpool clapping at that. It is a vision for good growth and a rejection of the old trickle-down model. And like the ideas this museum celebrates, which grew here and changed the country, so all parts of the UK should now be given the chance to develop their own version of the same, focusing on the things that matter most to them. Good growth in every British postcode. What a sea change that would be in the way UK government thinks about our own country. Places no longer forgotten or written off, as they have been in the past, but supported to make the best of their assets, seeing the positives in all places. And there are positives in all places, in all postcodes across this United Kingdom. Let's always remember that. Powers for our rural economies to address issues specific to them, like inadequate transport. Powers for areas undergoing industrial transition, like Port Talbot, Scunthorpe and Aberdeen. Powers for our proud coastal towns to reimagine themselves for the 21st century. And yes, more powers for London too, over education and housing, so that London can do more for itself and remain the world's greatest capital city. And you heard that here from Manchester. All of it backed by the stability that comes from sound public finances, as I said before, and the discipline of our current fiscal rules. I hope people can begin to feel, hopefully you can, some of the excitement that comes with the change that I'm setting out today. It promises a new era of possibility for Britain, possibility in places that haven't felt it for a very long time. And I know, because I heard that from people on doorsteps in the by-election. But let's give them that feeling, that ability to hope, to aspire to better. The change will be the biggest change in our lifetimes to the way the country is run, and it is consistent with the 2024 manifesto. We will create a more streamlined state with a clearer purpose to power up all parts of the country and put a laser-like focus on growth and regeneration, good growth. The change will be driven through the Prime Minister's office in an extended operation based here in Manchester. But here's the important thing. It will only be based here. The job of Number 10 North will be to make power flow into the Midlands, into the southwest, into the east of England, and yes, into London, as I said before, as much as into the northeast, Yorkshire and the Humber, and here in the northwest. It will be about offering new opportunities to extend devolution in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland by taking power deeper down. The people of Dundee and Bangor feel just as distant from Holyrood and the Senedd as they do from Westminster. Now get this. Number 10 North will be the nerve centre of a rewired Britain. It will be the conduit through which we redistribute power and resources across the UK. It will coordinate all parts of government at national and local level to agree a long-term economic strategy and help all places set new growth ambitions. It will be given a mission to strive for equivalent living conditions in all parts of Britain, borrowing from the German Basic Law. It will make place-based collaboration the new operating principle for UK PLC, requiring all government departments and agencies to support strategic and local authorities with staffing and resources. And let me say this very directly. And let me say this very directly. The days of Whitehall fighting the devolution power into the regions and nations are over, for good. I have had 10 years of fighting the Whitehall machine, blocking this place's progress, the progress of people here, and I am simply not prepared to accept the same for any area coming after Greater Manchester. The whole of Whitehall will now be required to get behind our places and work together with them to make quicker, more joined-up decisions. Ours will be a 10-year mission to raise living standards across the land. To do this, Number 10 North will support the regions on 3 clear tasks: reform of essential utilities, reindustrialisation and the regeneration of places. On utilities, we will ensure all parts of the UK are able to take greater public control of essential services like water, housing, energy and transport, learning from the model that has transformed our bus networks here in Greater Manchester. We will set out 10-year plans to bring down the cost of these essentials to individuals, families and businesses. On reindustrialisation, we will support every region to set clear and credible industrial ambitions and provide the support to achieve them, encouraging more cross-UK partnership between places with complementary industrial clusters, as Cambridge and Manchester have done on life sciences. We will consolidate public and private investment at a place-based level and help all areas establish good growth funds, as we have done here in Greater Manchester. We are such an inventive country, and going forward we can be the world's leading innovation nation. This is the key to higher growth, and I want more world-beating British manufacturers and service providers at the frontier of new technology and exporting to the world. I will back our scientists, technologists, entrepreneurs and creatives, as I have done here, and show how Britain will be the innovation nation of the next decade. We will get better at capturing full value from their ideas for UK PLC by changing the culture in Whitehall when it comes to backing British industry. For too long, UK public procurement policy has been based on chasing cut-price deals around the world, rather than helping our own British-based suppliers become more stable and competitive. No more. From here on, every pound raised from taxpayers will work harder for them, and that approach will apply fully to the Defence Investment Plan. We will make sure that all eligible public contracts are subject to proper social value weighting. And we will do that to make sure British-based companies are in a better position to win those contracts. This change is essential, given the need to build our own resilience in places across the country in an increasingly uncertain world. We need to safeguard sovereign manufacturing and production capability across the country in critical sectors like steel, defence, energy, food and farming, rather than just being prepared to let it go, as we have sadly done in the past. In return, we will recycle maximum benefits for our communities and our residents. For instance, by requiring a much greater supply of 45-day work placements and apprenticeships for young people. I take very seriously the findings of the recent report by Alan Milburn. We need a complete rethink of how we support the next generation to succeed, and it has to start with the education system. The days of a school system configured entirely around the university route will be brought to an end. University is great for those who want it, but when are we going to focus on the life chances of those kids who want something different? When? The country hasn't done that for a long, long time. People have argued over many years for an education system based on parity between academic and technical, and that is what we will build, giving every young person growing up here a clear path into a reindustrialised Britain. Where young people need mental health support, it should be provided as part of in-work support. And we will answer the call from the mayors, and particularly the Mayor of the North East, for devolution of employment support and changing the way we support and sustain people employment, working much more through our community and voluntary sector at a grassroots level, working with organisations people trust to help them, rather than going to places that they fear. This is the difference that the mayors can make, and in doing that, we will reduce the welfare bill in a way that is fair and lasting and helps people move forward. Another way to do that is by repairing the public housing stock. Britain has lost almost 1.5 million council homes since the 1980s, and around the same number of people are now on housing waiting lists and have been there for a very long time. As a result, the country is in a housing trap. We are forced to chase rents in the private rented sector through the benefit system, When governments try to control these costs by freezing local housing allowance, it makes families homeless and places unfunded pressures on councils when they have to pay for temporary accommodation. Britain's housing crisis is having a ruinous impact on its public finances. So, working with local areas, Number 10 North will oversee the biggest council house building programme since the post-war period. We will use public land, vacant public land, to reduce costs. Let me just take you back to when I grew up here in the 1970s, and Steve Rotherham and I have written about this in a certain book. But when we were growing up here, amongst the friends we had at school, there were two things that were the foundations of working class aspiration. A council home, a secure home that was the foundation for everything, and then good technical education. And those things have been taken away in the decades since. So no wonder so many young people struggle to make it work and then don't make it work. Don't blame them. Blame ourselves. We haven't been giving people this stability, this ability to get on in life. And it's time we did and brought back working class aspiration, the chance of somebody growing up here to be everything that they can be. And that's what we'll do. And also make this a city where no one has to leave to get on in life, or any of the other cities represented here today. That's what this new era is going to be all about, a sense of hope, of possibility, that things are achievable that you might not have thought were before. And having this focus on council homes again and building them in all parts of the country, it will represent a decisive shift to a more preventative, productive state, adopting a national housing first philosophy, as has been pioneered so successfully in Finland. If you don't give people a good home, what chance have they got of having a good life? What chance of making the health service sustainable if people are not living in good accommodation or getting a good education for kids? Everything starts with a good home, and this country finally has to put that at the top of its priority list. Through this new approach, we will bring higher density residential development to our towns, and Number 10 North will be able to support all places to turn around those towns, their high streets and the local centres, increasing footfall on the high street and protecting more green spaces from development. To reinforce that, we will reform business rates to support pubs and high street businesses, businesses that bring social benefits to communities. And let me finish by saying this. Rather than being a marker of decline, shouldn't we make our high streets the new symbol of Britain's renaissance? Ours is a 10-year mission to raise people's living standards. I know people can't wait forever for change. I heard on doorsteps in Makerfield how people need a bit extra now to help with rising costs. I will do my very best to deliver it, and whilst not taking risks with the public finances, will seek to give Britain some breathing space as soon as I can. People need to be able to look forward to a night out or a holiday with the kids. People need hope. This brings me back to where I started and the stories told in this building of how ordinary people, right back to Peterloo 200 years ago here, changed a British state not built with them in mind. Our modern challenge is exactly the same. An economy which, from the mid-1980s onwards, has not been built with them in mind and instead has handed more to those who already have most and left people overpaying for the basics. If people in 1844 could form the cooperative movement in Rochdale to lower the price of food, then why can't we act now with similar courage to make life better? Imagine what things could be like if we succeed. Imagine what it would feel like to live in a country wired to work for ordinary people rather than against them. Imagine if all local areas could build homes people can afford to the point where they could guarantee one for everyone. Imagine if we could bring down the cost of energy for people and businesses and the good things that would come from that. Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart. I'll say it again. Imagine good growth in every postcode and hope in every heart. Well, imagine no more. Let's make it happen.
And there was Andy Burnham, currently the only man on the ballot to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, giving his speech at the People's History Museum in Manchester and facing no questions from the press in the audience.
Yeah, interesting, Tom, isn't it? Fascinating that someone that sells himself as a great communicator, very keen to talk to people, refuses to take any question, but saying a lot of things people wanted to hear. We will concentrate on housing. So everybody has a house, like he had when he was a child. Didn't mention his dad was a toolmaker, thankfully. We've passed that one now. Utilities, all publicly owned. Also, the Labour proposed to build 1.5 million new homes, the amount we are missing. Major reform of the education system. Lots and lots of things that people are wanting to hear, expressing it very well. Very interesting that he kept using the word imagine. Anyone else want to burst into a John Lennon sing, or was that just me?
It did seem a little bit Lennonite rather than Leninite. And perhaps that's a blessed relief for people that were worried about the creeping nationalisation. But let's discuss this with another Andy. Indeed, another former mayor. Yes, the former mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Thanks indeed for being with us.
Tie, no T-shirt, no black T-shirt.
How are your eyelashes doing? More mascara probably needed there. What did you make of it, Andy? I mean, you've been there, you've been a mayor, you are called Andy.
He didn't really say anything, did he? He said all the nice stuff that, of course, everyone believes in having more housing, especially social housing. Everybody believes in a more balanced economy. Everyone believes in greater opportunity. But what are you going to do about it? Now, what he will say, he'll say that, well, look at my record, Mayor of Greater Manchester. The people keep saying that the growth was as strong as or even stronger than London's. That's largely a myth. OK? Greater Manchester's population boomed. It grew by 250,000 people in the last 10 years. That's the size of Southampton. They bolted on an economy the size of Southampton onto their city. That drove their economic growth.